Moment.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Schmidt List. I'm your host, Kurt Schmidt. I'm excited that you are joining me today because we are going to be talking about all things AI, both internally and externally, everything to do with your business, your client's business. We've got a lot to cover today, so stick with us. And speaking of sticking with me, make sure you go and check out The Little Book of Networking, available on Amazon. And then there's a new book's coming out. So if you're not connected with me on LinkedIn and you haven't seen stuff on the new book, make sure you go and check that out. All right. Let's get started with our conversation with Nate. Nate, how are you today?
I am doing quite well, Kurt. Thanks for having me on the show.
I'm excited you're here. So, Nate, tell me about the work you do and who do you work with?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am president of Peril. We're a full service digital agency right outside of Minneapolis. We're doing web design, web development, and digital marketing services for a wide variety of clients. Within our digital marketing services, we're providing SEO, ads management, social media management, content marketing. If it's digital, we can do it. You name it,
Sure.
we can do it online. What we like to say around here is that we power businesses to win online. So whether you're getting online for the first time, which is a little rare these days, unless you're a startup, or if you're just looking to optimize your online presence, anything from the website, if it lives on a website or on any digital platform, that's something we do.
Great. Well, that's why I'm really excited to talk to you today because all the articles I read about AI, it seems that the marketing space is the first to be disrupted here a bit. I mean, there's obviously lots of other areas that are being touched, but at least from the content I consume, AI is a big conversation in those spaces, and that there's a lot of challenges that happen with them. So maybe let's start with Peril and how you're using AI in the agency currently, and then what challenges have you had with AI? Because people seem to just assume that you just plug it in and go, right?
Yes, which is a very bad assumption. Yeah. So in terms of how we're using it today, I'll go ahead and start there. Our general philosophy on AI in terms of how we use it internally is that we're using it to make ourselves more efficient, strategic work. We're talking about the things that can easily be automated. So, we're in all aspects of digital marketing. So we have SEO, we have design, we have development, we have ads. And each one of those areas can have work automated by AI. So let's just use SEO as an example. There's all kinds of things from an SEO perspective that can be taken care of by AI, and there's things you shouldn't touch with AI. And we've seen very recently some examples of how when you overuse AI, Google does not like it and Google penalizes you. We saw
Mm,
with the latest Google updates, a lot of those websites that had gone more in the complete AI direction, they were de-indexed. They had a lot of loss of traffic. And we're happy to say none of our clients experienced any traffic losses during the last updates. So what can be taken care of by AI? From an SEO perspective, I'll start there. Something like alt text on images.
mm,
Let's say you have a website, you have 20,000 images on your website. You want alt text on those images. To have a human go through and manually look at every single image and then write up alt text, that's a super low skilled thing because all you're doing is looking at a picture and then typing what it is.
right.
Well, there's AI tools that do it in seconds, and they're probably more accurate than
Mm,
humans. Humans look at the image and they're starting to think of it simply to say what the image is. So with AI, you can do that in seconds. A human, and the example that I gave with the 20,000 images, which was an actual use case that we had here, that would have taken months. But
Yeah, and there's
we're able
diminishing
to,
returns, right? Because
yeah,
depending on how awake that person is while they're going through it at any given time, I can imagine myself about a week or two in just being like, "Yeah, cloud, I don't know, whatever."
so that's just one of many examples. So more on the SEO side, anytime we can automate those simple things like meta descriptions, that's so formulaic and Google rewrites them half the time anyway. So automating the process of meta descriptions, automating research, competitive research. You can build a custom GPT that allows you to analyze your 5 competitors for these 10 things. You can have that done in seconds. If you build the GPT the right way, then it's going to give you pretty accurate information. Things that we stay away from on the SEO side are heavy content creation
Yeah.
because it doesn't give the real time data. And also, it doesn't truly understand intent like our SEO experts do. Do we use it for content generation at all? Yeah, of course we do. Everyone uses it for content generation to a certain perspective, but we don't allow AI to create finished products for us.
Yeah.
We'll use AI to generate some topic ideas, to generate an outline, maybe to either write a first draft or review a first draft. But we're not going to ask AI to create a piece of content and then publish that piece of content because then what you're going to get something with no unique perspective. You're going to get something that is some combination of all the data that AI has spit
Yep.
out into this nice, tidy format. And that's not what we're looking for when we're producing content, either for us or for our clients. We're looking for something that truly encapsulates their voice, speaks to their target audience, and has some type of unique perspective because that's the type of content that performs well.
Yeah. Makes
So,
sense.
a couple of examples there of how we use it, how we don't. There's a bunch of other things that I could get into.
And there's a new tool every day.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things we've noticed is that most of these tools, what they promise is much greater than what they actually deliver.
Yeah.
The like you said early, that assumption that AI can just do it. It usually requires so much human intervention to get AI to produce what you want it to produce. Just take simple image creation, for example. If you wanted, this is kind of a goofy story, but there's a phrase that gets used here a lot about ham-fisted when when things are just so overly convoluted.
Yep.
We tried to generate an AI image of someone who had hams for fists. And it took 25 different prompts to get something close to what we wanted. I mean, you can say to Dolly, I want hams instead of hands. Just type that up, and then you'll get hams on top of hands where you can clearly see fingers coming out. And then you'll come back and you'll say, no, take the fingers out. And then it will take the fingers out, but you'll still be able to see now maybe there's a fist on top of the hands. There's all kinds of weird stuff that it does. There's no AI tool out there right now that just does exactly what you want it to do on the first try. It doesn't exist.
Yeah. Well, then, and I don't think it's going to be a long time before we have something that is as anywhere close to what you're maybe hoping for. But that's the other thing I want to ask you about, because I know as agencies are implementing AI, you kind of got to build a new standard operating procedure for it's like adding to these people's job descriptions in a way, because I could see where you've got this new tool that's going to make your job easier. So you lean into it almost too far, right? The pendulum swings so far that you're just letting it do most of the things. And you're like, well, I guess that's okay. And then you might have other people that are like very against it because they don't want to feel like their jobs are not important, that the last 10 years that they spent honing their skills are now irrelevant, right? So have you experienced those types of challenges, and how have you addressed them as the president of the company?
Yeah, absolutely. We experience every challenge you just mentioned.
Hmm.
We had a mix of a couple people who were super excited, can't wait to test this thing. And then we had people who were, man, whatever, it's probably not going to be that great. And then you had people who didn't want to have anything to do with it. And as it became more prevalent and every conversation seemed like it was about AI, we continue to see that where we had people who were excited from the get go. They were leaning into it. They're going out and testing new tools. There were people who, okay, I'll try it, but I'm skeptical. And then there are people who are just, nope, I'm not using that.
Yep. Don't,
And
no
I had
touchy.
one employee who I knew he hadn't used any AI. And I asked him why not. And he said, because there's nothing AI can do that I can't do.
That's fair.
Oh, okay. Well, let's unpack that a little bit. Maybe
Right.
can do that you
That's a very
can't,
general statement.
but maybe there's things AI can do faster than you can do. Or maybe there's things about your job that you don't like, then AI could take off your plate. And so instead of, beat people over the head and say, okay, we're all in on AI, here's the new policy, just deal with it. Uh, we worked on building that culture of enthusiasm around it, where
Mm,
it's not a tool that's going to replace you. It's a tool that's going to make your job easier. 'Cause
sure.
I don't think that's what it does. I think it's a tool that allows you to spend more time doing the highly skilled tasks that you're good at, which arguably isn't easy. But what it does is it takes the stuff you don't like off your plate, the stuff you're not good at or not fast at off your. So an example, I'll use an example with our design team. Our design team doesn't like using AI to generate creative in any capacity because that's taking away the essence of who they are.
Yeah, sure.
But what they do like is using AI to search for images. They like using AI to brainstorm a logo concept.
Mm. Almost like a
They
mood
like
board
using
type of
AI
thing
to
versus,
to
yeah.
assemble a style guide. So you've got all the components in the style guide, the logo, you've got the fonts, you've got the sizes, you've got the usage and all this. But the actual compiling of the document takes, 5, 6 extra hours of non-creative time. So here, Figma, here's all the elements. Can you just assemble the guide for me? And now you take the thing that's not the creative work and you allow the AI to do it so they can spend more time doing their creative. This is actually really cool. Going back to the employee where he said AI can't do anything that I I can't do. I had a conversation with him about it, and all of a sudden, over the weekend, between the time we had that conversation and the next workday, he went out and built this little AI tool that helped to automate a simple process for us. And all of a sudden, we were saving time, not doing something that was, just mindless activity. And now you take this guy who didn't believe in AI, and all of a sudden he spends his weekend building something that helps us move.
Yeah.
So back to your original question, you also asked about those operating procedures. How
Yeah,
do you then embed this into your systems? And I think one is just establishing some clear guidelines around what you can and can't use AI for. And for us, one of the big things is you can't use it to create the final product. You can't use it to create the final content. You can't use it to create a final design. And we have other restrictions on what you can and can't do. One big thing for us is just data confidentiality because
yeah,
we have access to so much data from our clients. The assumption, what we've told our team is you have to assume that anything that you put into ChatGPT, for example, is now public record.
for sure.
You know, can someone then go in and figure out exactly what you fed ChatGPT? No, but it's now available
Yeah.
somewhere in that ether. And so we just have a strict policy of if the data is confidential in any regard, if it's not publicly available data, you're not going to put it in ChatGPT.
Mhm.
Just no go. You're not going to dump revenue data for a client in their search.
Right.
You're not going to dump their financials. You're not going to take all the Google Analytics data and put it in the chat GPT and say, hey, this is my client X, and
This
here's
is
what
great.
we do to utilize the
Yeah.
data.
Parse this
It's not going
information.
to do it.
Yep.
Yeah. So establishing what people can't do is really, really important. And then there's also establishing the process for, okay, well, how do we vet a new tool? Take social media, for example. You as a social media specialist have discovered there's a tool out there that will help automate the response to comments, which responding to comments is no one's favorite part of doing social media.
Right.
So if there is an AI tool that can automate that process, that's fantastic, but we've got to test it thoroughly. My preference is always to use tools on ourselves first before we ever consider using them on a client. If we're not willing to experiment with that tool on our own brand, then we shouldn't be going down the path of using it for fun.
Yeah.
And that just goes across the board with anything that we're testing. We're going to use it on ourselves. If we like the way that it's working, then we'll bring it to the client and explain exactly what we're doing. We're not going to go to the client and say, hey, we're going to do stuff a lot faster and better now, but we're not going to tell you how we're doing it.
You're right.
No, we don't want this cloak of secrecy around our AI usage. We are actually working on a public AI statement that we're going to put on our website about this is what we use it for. This is what we don't use it for. These are some of the
Mm,
tools that we use. Obviously, it's subject to change very quickly, but we don't want to hide behind what we're doing.
yeah.
And we have clients who ask, "How do you guys use AI?" We all want to be on the same page in terms of how we answer that, and we want them to have access to the same tools that we do that are helping us be more efficient and have these better processes. So if there's like I said, that social media tool that allows for automated commenting, if that's working really well, we want our clients to be able to use that for themselves as well.
Yeah. Well, that's the perfect segue into what I wanted to ask next because I've been a part of a number of conversations and I've heard from other marketing people and their clients are showing up and saying, "Well, I'm not just paying you; you're just going to let AI write all the stuff for you or whatever." What sorts of how have the clients reacted in the last couple of years now that they're showing up and they probably are messing around with AI themselves and things? What sort of conversations are you having now? What sort of challenges are they having? And how are you approaching solving those?
Yeah, I think it's so varied. There's not one common theme where all of our clients are coming to us with the same concern and coming to us with the same questions. The common use cases are one, a client doesn't mention it at all and doesn't really want to talk about it. They have no AI plan. They don't seem to care or think it's going to impact them. So that's one use case. Second use case is just that curiosity where
Hmm. Hmm.
client is aware that AI is super hot topic and they want to know how Peril is using AI. Uh, and I think where that's typically coming from, I don't think it's coming from an accusatory, oh my gosh, are you guys using AI to do
Right.
this for me? I think they want to truly understand is Peril innovative? Is Peril at the top of, you know, is Peril on the cutting edge? Is Peril looking at the tools that are out there? Or are they falling behind? Should we consider a different agency because Peril's not out there looking to improve their processes? I don't think anyone, at least not from the way it's been approached by our clients. I don't think anyone is scared of AI usage or wants to shy away from AI usage. They just want to understand: Are we using it? Are we using it responsibly? Obviously, they, like you said, they don't want to pay someone who's just plugging everything in to ChatGPT. No one wants to pay someone to do that because that's
Yeah.
not worth the money. But one of the things that some clients have come to us is actually, hey, how can you use AI to do more for us within the same retainer that we're paying you already?
Hmm.
Which is, it's a valid question. Because, in the past, without AI, if someone came to us and said, hey, I want you to do more, but we're going to pay you the same. That doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Uh,
makes sense.
yeah, we're not going to suddenly give you more deliverables because you asked for them, but you don't want to pay more.
Well, and
But
I think
now,
it's
go
a
ahead.
scale thing too, right? So, I know some agencies that work specifically with very high regulatory businesses, and they have to add to their MSA like they will not use AI as um, part of their process. So some of these companies are actively coming in and saying you cannot. If we catch you using AI, like we'll terminate the contract. So,
Yeah.
because there's a number of companies, as I'm sure you're aware, right? Anything from financial to healthcare and all these different places that are very nervous about this. And so, yes, they absolutely want better, faster, cheaper, but not at the expense of lawsuits.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we did a few months ago. We added a line in our MSA about how we may use AI do uh, these types of things.
Yeah, sure.
We haven't had any pushback yet. We haven't had a client say, absolutely not, you can't use AI ever.
Yep.
If we did have a client come to us with that specific request, easy to redline MSAs, we could certainly do that. But we would also want to have a conversation about, well, are there elements that we could potentially use AI? For example, can we use AI just to add the alt text images? Can we use AI to assemble a for you? Just tool takes all the creative work and just puts it in a document for you. Are those acceptable use cases? So
Right.
just try to understand what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. And if the answer is you just can't use AI to do anything, then that I mean, at some point that becomes a head scratcher too, because
It does.
you think of all the tools. HubSpot has AI built in. Google Analytics has AI
Yeah.
built
It's getting harder not to touch something
in.
that doesn't.
Everything has AI built in. So what are you going to do? Are there's no way those clients are going to Google and saying, "Hey, you can't use AI for it."
Yeah. Right. Right. Well, and I guess, it's like you said, there's a line, and as long as you've got clear communications, clear expectations, I think you can work through anything. But it's where I see people just make assumptions about things like, oh, this is fine because it exists, it's fine. But to your point, you've got to be intentional with the AI.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's that, and I think it goes back to what our philosophy on AI is it's not here to replace creative or strategic work. It's here to be used in these really well established areas where we can take that simple work and get it off our plates. It's not
Yeah,
here, we're not trying to use it to solve the big problems.
yeah. Right. Well, and the more educated client, right? I'm guessing the people that are like yourself, leaders that are going out and understanding AI and taking the time to explore it, are realizing like, yeah, I don't want to pay somebody to manually do a lot of this stuff. I want you to use AI to expedite those things so I get more of the brain trust, and less of the fingers on the keyboards, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I hate to keep going back to the same example, but the alt text for images, I think is just such a great
Oh
example
yeah.
as a reference point. Because you go to any agency, you're going to pay 100, 150, $200 an hour for their time. And if you do you want to pay someone $150 an hour to sit there and say woman in a red dress for alt text? Or do you
Mhm.
want them to think about how are your potential buyers actually using search engines to find your brand? Or are they even using search engines to find your brand? If not, where should we be focusing our time? So yeah, again, those things that AI can't do, those strategic exercises that the creative planning and all that goes into marketing, that's done by humans. That's not done by robots.
Right.
Will it ever be? Maybe, but there's
Yeah.
no
Maybe.
data sets don't exist where the machines can do that right now,
Yeah.
at least not at an accurate and reliable level. So use the machines to do the simple stuff that they're really good at that humans aren't that good at.
No. Yeah, makes sense. So my last question is as I mentioned, as a leader in the organization, right? You're not in there replacing all texts and things yourself, and you're taking on bigger and challenges. So, how are you spending time to educate yourself and staying ahead of the game? Because that's something I've found over the years is sometimes the leaders are a little bit less they're a little out of touch when it comes to some of the new technologies and things that are showing up, and not because they're dumb, it's just because their job requires different things. But this
Yeah.
AI wave, it's something you can't, this, as you mentioned, is something you can't just sort of like, well, I'll see what I'll see what happens when it's good, or you have to ride the wave. You can't wait for it to kind of come crashing down. How are you staying on top of things? How are you staying educated? And how do you balance that time with the your day-to-day work?
Yeah, it's a great question. I like to say that my job is it's got three components. My job is profitability, revenue growth, and creating a positive culture at the agency. And so everything I do should somehow relate to one of those things. Uh, But there's all different kinds of paths to relate to one of those things. And something like revenue growth and profitability, AI absolutely has implications in that.
Okay.
So for me, the way that I have been staying on top of AI is, well, one way, um, we actually created an internal AI team. So we have one developer, one designer, one SEO person, so one person from each department on our team, and I lead that team. And lead is more moderate because I'm not leading the charge in terms of going out and finding the tools and doing the research. But we meet every other week and they walk through what AI use cases they have discovered over the past 2 weeks. And then we talk about how they're implementing or trying to implement or what are the pros and cons of these. And so that's one way that I'm getting that information is I'm understanding just firsthand knowledge from each 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 team how
Hmm.
they're using it. And so sometimes when they mention things, then I'll get really interested and I'll ask them to show me it, to walk me through it. Or I might even get access to the account and do some tests with it myself. So that's one way that I'm staying on top of it. Uh, Other ways, I'll see things on LinkedIn and I'll see things in various Slack channels that I'm part of, just people talking about different AI tools that they're using, how they're improving their business with AI. And then I'll just start exploring those. And some of it is kind of experimentation after hours where I'm just curious and it's fun.
Sure.
Like I did a voice cloning uh, a tool a few weeks ago, and what's the actual use case for me? Probably none, but it was just kind of fun to do. And it gave me more of that hands-on experience of how the tools work and what the limitations are and what you can really do with it.
And you can
But
write a great
now
Drake
how
diss track as
can
part of it as well.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. How can I make my job a little easier?
Yeah.
So things like those AI transcription tools, so that I
Yes.
can be fully invested in a conversation, not sitting there trying to take notes while I'm talking.
Yep.
So that's one example. If I come across some task that seems stupidly easy that I can't figure out, like I got this huge list of potential prospects to reach out to, but I don't really know how to organize this list. Is that something I could just into a Gemini or a Chat GPT to get it sorted or organized? Just those simple tasks that instead of spending 15, 30 minutes in a spreadsheet trying to figure out how to do this thing, just, hey, can you do this for me? And boom, I've got what I needed and I can move on.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to use it as much as I can, but of course in responsible ways, not in reckless, time sucking ways.
Yeah, it's smart, but that goes back to what I was saying before about being intentional, and you're not just kind of letting the team just run rampant and show up at all hours and days and slacking at random times about, this tool. Oh, we should buy this tool and we should use this way. Like you're having these purposeful kind of sprints meetings where you're sitting down and you're being methodical and you're going through these different things because I myself, I mean, I'm sure you have, like, I've seen an AI tool and it promises the world. I get involved and I'm like, that was a kind of a waste of time. And so
Yeah.
you scale that up in an agency. That's a lot of wasted time of people all out there doing that. So I love what you're doing, Nate, by creating sort of this AI committee in a way where you're exploring it, you're learning from each other, and then you can leave it there and have more conversations about it. I think it's really smart to do, and I think more leaders should be doing that sort of work.
Thank you. I appreciate that comment. And I think at the end of the day, it's always going to come down to some type of ROI conversation in terms
Right.
of
Right.
AI usage. When a team member brings a tool to me, whether it's automating social media comments or voice cloning or creating decks or whatever that tool might do, the question I always start with is, well, how much time is this going to save? And sometimes there's a really clear answer of, well, it usually takes me 7 hours a week to do this work. And now with this tool, it'll probably only take me 2 hours a week. So now I'm going to save 5 hours a week. That is
Right.
fantastic. But then the next question is always, well, aside from is it accurate? Is it reliable? All those things. And my team is really good at understanding when there's actually AI tools we've investigated that will cost us more time because of the
Sure.
amount of human interaction that's required in order to get the to take the product that AI has produced and turn it into a final product. Sometimes that actually takes longer when you're using a tool. Uh,
Yep.
but if an employee says, I'm going to save 5 hours a week using this tool, the follow up question is then, well, what are you going to do with that 5 hours a week? Because this this only
Right.
saves us money if we have something to replace. It can't just
Right.
be, "Well, I take 5 hours a week." So my ROI is our hourly rates,
Yep.
divided by the cost of the tool.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
that's only true if we can replace that 5 hours a week with something else.
Right.
And so, the ideal answer is, well, it'll give me additional bandwidth so that I could spend more time on additional projects or additional strategic work or whatever it might be. There just
Yep.
has to be something to replace it with. It can't be, hey, I save 5 hours a week. Well,
Yep.
if every employee saves 5 hours a week, then you got to start looking at some point you're looking at the bigger picture and thinking about, well, if we've saved all this time, are we overstaffed?
Oh yeah. Well, or are we in reinvesting into customer service or
Yeah,
and quality control, right? Because that's what I see a lot happening in the development space with things like Microsoft Copilot and different things like that, where the developers, it's saving them time, but that time is going now back into quality control,
right.
versus just dumping it onto a QA engineer and saying, "Let me know what you find."
Yeah,
They're spending
absolutely.
more time there, or the account people that I know that are using it are able to spend more time coming up with ideas to delight the customer versus writing proposals and things like that, right?
Absolutely. 'Cause I'm a big believer in not, my philosophy is not use AI to cut people. That is absolutely not my intent. That I don't ever want to go down that path. My philosophy is use AI to free up time so our people can do more and better work. That's
I
what
love
I'm
it.
looking for.
I love it, Nate. Well, Nate, I could talk to you all day. So I know you're a busy guy. Thank you for taking the time to join me today. I've learned a lot and I appreciate you sharing some of the insights from the good work you're doing there at Peril. If I want to get in touch with Peril, if I want to get in touch with you and find out more about the work you're doing, where should I go? Where do I find more?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, you can always go to the Peril website, peril.com. That's two R's and two L's, PERRILL.com. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Please, if you're listening to this, connect with me on LinkedIn. Would love to continue the conversation. In terms of getting a hold of me, that's the best way. Find me on LinkedIn. Uh, I'm pretty easy to spot and I participate a lot. And I would love more engagement. So please do connect.
Okay, great. Well, good. Well, for everybody listening, there will be links in the description for both Peril and for contacting Nate on LinkedIn. So make sure you go down and check that out. All right, Nate. Thank you again so much. I really appreciate the time.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate the conversation.
All right, awesome. All right, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to join me today. I mean, what do you think? I'd love to know. Reach out to me, put some comments down below. How are you using AI in your business? How are you adjusting it? What challenges are you having? Are you having a lot of naysayers? Are you having so maybe some overeager people, right? So let me know what you think. I appreciate you taking time out of your week. We'll see you next time.